After booking over 30,000 sales calls in my business, I've done everything possible when it comes to testing your process for both your show rate and your close rate. I've tested offers, I've tested sales scripts, I've tested follow-up sequences. But the truth is, none of those moved the needle as much as you think they might. So what actually moves the needle when it comes to your show rate and your close rate? It's your application. And I know that sounds boring, and it's so much more fun to want to tweak your offer. It's so much more fun to want to tweak 14 emails in your appointment reminder sequence to make sure you've covered every single objection before they get to the call. When it comes to your call funnel, your application should be the main thing you focus on to get more people to close and get more people to show. It should not be an afterthought. And in this video, I'm going to go over the 6 things that you need on the application, as well as the branching logic you need in order to make these work. Before we jump into those, I want to talk about the screening spectrum, because when you're screening your calls through your application, it's not going to be one set and forget application that you never touch again. Your application needs to be constantly monitored and adjusted, and there's a spectrum. So I'm going to go through a couple scenarios to lay out how this looks. So on the right side of the spectrum, we have hard screening. On the left side of the spectrum, we have loose screening. So walking through a couple scenarios here. So scenario 1 is going to be if you screen your apps super hard. So let's say you're selling a $5,000 program. You have 100 leads come in, and because you're screening so hard, you only let 20 of those get through. You have 18 of those show up, and you have 10 of those close. So you have a 90% show rate and a 55% close rate. Go brag about those numbers to everybody in your mastermind. So the revenue off of this hard screening would be $50,000 if you're selling a $5,000 program. Scenario number 2 would be loose screening. So you take the same program that is $5,000, you have 100 leads, and you let everybody book. Because you let everybody book, you have 50 that show, you close 15. So you have a 50% show rate and a 30% close rate. But when you look at overall, you have $75,000 in revenue. So which one of these is better? The answer? Well, it's a trick question because I talked about the spectrum. So how can we use the spectrum to make sure you're getting the balance in between both and knowing when to make the adjustments? So you have on one side, you're letting nobody through and screening really hard. On the other side, you're letting everybody through and screening really loosely. So both of these strategies come with their own upsides and their own downsides. When you have a team of closers that's getting 60% close rates and 90% show rates, they're going to complain about one of 2 things, and this will happen every single time. It's just the nature of how it works and how human psychology is. The first is going to be entitlement. The second anyone who's not fully qualified comes through, they're going to start complaining about lead quality. And the second thing that's going to happen is their volume's not going to be high enough. So when their calendars aren't booked up, they're going to go potentially look for new roles because they're not getting enough calls on their calendar. And the way I view it with closers is, would you rather go 2 for 3 or would you rather go 9 for 20? So obviously the answer is 9 for 20, but if you're not adjusting your screening, what's going to happen is you're going to keep that volume low, you're going to keep their number of calls low, and they're going to go look for something else. So the question then becomes, when do you make these adjustments? So generally you want to fall within this range, right in here. You don't want to ever screen too hard and you don't want to ever screen too loose. This is a good, safe range. Adjustments can be made based on a few different things. So the first one would be volume. When you have high volume lead flow coming in, so you have more leads than you know what to do with, you want to go more towards stricter screening. So get pickier with how you're letting people through. When you have lower lead volume, or if you have too much call availability, you're going to want to start sliding left a little bit to take more calls in. And again, this will drop your show rate, but if it's bringing in more calls and you're getting more sales off of it, which we're going to talk about in the monitoring section, you want to make sure you're letting more people through. Another reason you might want to adjust is seasonality. So if you're in an industry where people buy more seasonally, so if you think something like fitness in January, when you have an overflow of people, higher demand for it, you're going to want to be a little pickier to respect your closers' calendars a little bit more. Now, if it's slower, if you're going into the holiday season and maybe people aren't ramping up as much, you can go the other way to let more people through. Another reason would be closer availability. if your calendars are completely packed and maybe you're underhired or you don't have enough closers, you want to be a little more picky with who you're letting through. On the flip side, if you have more availability, maybe if you're having multiple closers just start, you can let more calls through to fill your new closers' calendars to get them more reps. And the last thing would be the closer mentality. So if closers are hot and they're really, really good, you can loosen the screening. There's a chance that you're screening people off that they're capable of closing. And you might get some pushback with this, with that entitlement. But what's going to happen is overall, you're going to start selling more units. If you're getting close rates above 50 to 60%, you can definitely afford to loosen the screening because you're probably losing revenue by leaving closes off the calendar by screening too hard. On the flip side, if your show rate is really, really low and your closer morale is really bad, you do want to get more strict screening, even if it means fewer total calls booked for them, just to balance it out. So those are the couple things you want to watch. Before we go into what to put on the application, I'm going to show you after how to track it and why that's important, because this is going to feed you data you need to make adjustments to your actual application. Now let's go into the actual application and what you want to put on it. So there are 6 different things that you're going to want to put on the application, and I'm going to go over what these are, why they're important, and what are some examples. So the first question to put on your application is the location question. So this is, where are you located? You can phrase it as, what city are you in? What state are you in? What country are you in? This is important because you do want to look at regional context with who's closing, but you also want to look at potentially pairing regions with your closers if you are segmenting your calendar. The second question that we're going to look at is the goals question. And the goals is important because we want to know what they want to accomplish, if we can help them. And this is going to be generally an open field rather than a single select. So when we're asking about goals, we want to see how specific they are with their goals. We want to see if they're looking for a goal we can actually help them with. If you're getting single word answers in your goal section, or if you're getting irrelevant answers in your goal section, that's a sign to start screening a little more strictly. If you're running a biz op offer and you ask, what's your goal here? And somebody says, make money, that's going to be a lead with a lot less intent than someone who says, I'm looking to make an extra $50,000 per month in revenue within the next 4 months. So the goals are going to be, how specific are they looking to get with what they want to accomplish? That's going to be an indicator of how serious they are about it. The next question is going to be a why not question. So why haven't you hit your goals? With this one, I leave this multiple choice. So putting options like, I don't have enough time, I couldn't justify the cost, it was too confusing, I can't commit, I quit everything I do. And the reason we want to have multiple choice here is from an analytics standpoint, because you're going to find patterns in this data. We want the goal to be open-ended, but we want why they haven't hit it to be a multi-selection choice, so you can track to see which answers are bringing in better leads and potentially even which closers are closing with better answers. So you might have a closer that closes urgency better than finances. You might have a closer that closes timing concerns over trust concerns better. So we want to keep this one, the why haven't you hit these goals, as a multi-select. The next part we're going to look at is where they are currently. So we want to find out what their current situation is. If their goal was to lose 50 pounds, we want to find out if they weigh 200 pounds, 150 pounds, 500 pounds. We need to know where they're currently at, because that's going to show intent. If you have a goal that is vague, like make money, and where they currently are now is vague, like working, that's going to be someone that would be more likely to be filtered out. But if currently they're showing their pain points with where they're at and it's connected to their goal and you see congruence between them, that's a good sign. So that currently is important to grab. And then after that, we're going to go into what they've tried. And this is going to be another multiple choice, multi-select question. We don't want them typing this in here unless you want to put an other field. And the reason, again, is for tracking purposes, because when they've tried, say, masterminds before or other coaching programs, or have never tried anything, or have only tried free stuff, this is going to be an indicator that's directly tied to close rates. So we can start stacking these. We might see people who have tried masterminds before and they're located on the West Coast, they're more likely to convert than people who are located in the South and have only tried free resources. So what they've tried is important to get because of that. And the next one we're going to look at is the investment questions. So the two I like to ask are, what do you do for work? And what have you previously invested to solve this problem? There are different ways you can phrase this. The investment question should stay as a single select option. So you could do something like under $500, over $1,000, over $5,000, over $8,000. Each of those are going to be tied to a different conversion rate when we're actually tracking our app. So it's important to have those and know. The reason I like to ask past investment over a future question is because you're not asking a hypothetical. A lot of people like the question, hey, if this program feels right, are you willing to invest in yourself with a payment plan or something like that? But you're asking somebody to make a hypothetical future decision. If you've ever been in a band before and you've had concerts and you have to sell concert tickets, you're much better off asking a friend, hey, do you go to concerts a lot? If they say yes, the odds of them buying a ticket's a lot higher than if you say to a friend, hey, if my band has a show next month, do you think you'll come? If you're free, you're making them make a decision on something that they don't have the information for yet, rather than state a fact about themselves. The work question, we're going to ask what they do, and this is going to be tied to our first branching logic if it is relevant to you. So in this one, you can see here, if any of their work contains the term attorney, dentist, CEO, lawyer, human resources, you'll know which professions work best with your offer. But when you have these, you can have them skip an investment step. If you have somebody who's a surgeon, you don't need to ask them what they previously invested. So with this branching logic, this would then go straight to a contact form. So to recap what we're asking, we're getting location, goals, why they haven't hit them, where they're currently at, what they've tried, and then investment questions. Now we're going to look at the branching logic, and you can do this on any application software for the most part. I'm using Fillout, but you can do this on Typeform, you can do this on Jotform, wherever you're running your applications. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to break up our categories into at least 3 categories that people can route to. So the first one's going to be direct to calendar. This would be somebody who's invested the right amount. This is going to be somebody who has a profession that you want to work with. I call these the tier 1 or the T1. So if they get routed here, if they're an attorney, they get routed to the contact information. The contact goes directly to that main booking calendar. The second one, if you have setters, is a manual review. If you get somebody on the fence, say they've spent the lowest amount, say you're not sure if they fully would be a good fit with your program, you redirect to a page that would be, hey, we're reviewing your application. We'll follow up to send you the main calendar link. This is the biggest lever to pull when you're making adjustments to screening if you want to let more people through or be more strict. You're going to either put more people to the 2-step app review or put less people to the tier-step app review. But with setters, you still want to be following best practices, follow up immediately, review the app immediately. If they're not qualified, have a low ticket or a mid-ticket offer that you can push instead. But this review is going to be the sweet spot of your adjustment for how strictly you screen. The other 2 are people who have booked before, who you want to keep off the calendar, because we've all had those serial bookers and you can't do this in places like Calendly. But if you go in here, you can edit the condition and just put people you don't want to rebook. This is an easy way to do it. And then a 4th one that I like is spam emails. So you can go look all of these fake email addresses. Anyone who has one of these, they just get pushed to spam. So they're not blocking your calendar slots and they're not wasting your team's time. So how do you look at these numbers and use them? I'm going to show you an example on this dashboard. So these were all of our questions and all of our answers when people came through. So we can see here that we're adjusting based on this question about what they've tried before, this question about what their investment history was. You can see conversion rates for each country. You can see conversion rates for each set of answers. With all of these give you tools to make adjustments to your sales app and also be able to route the right people to the right closers. So when you have this data at your fingertips, you know if you need to slide to let more people come through, if you need to bump and make it stricter to let less people through to try to raise that conversion rate, try to raise that show rate. And remember, this needs to be constantly monitored. This isn't a situation of, oh, I built a booking form and now all my leads are getting routed the right direction. No, you want to watch for that seasonality. You want to watch for your lead quality. You want to watch for the close rate. You want to watch for calendar availability and make the adjustments as needed. Go take this and start implementing it. Remember, an application is not just a form that you set and forget. It's the main driver that boosts your show rate and boosts your conversion rate. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm bringing you more videos on operations and infrastructure and ways to optimize your processes so you make more money.